Yeah. Oh, Andrea Tessmann.
Hello, Kirk Buchner.
October 5th, 1991. I can ask you this question. You were alive. Well, what do you think you were doing?
I was probably in grade 4.
Mm-hmm.
So what do grade 4 people do? What do you do at 10? Like ride your bikes and I was probably listening to New Kids on the Block, to be totally honest.
Interesting. Very interesting. That might play into what we're going to talk about today.
Really?
Yeah, it might. I can't remember what I was doing. I was probably just miserable because I was at 19.
Weren't we all, though?
I don't know that the gentleman we're going to be talking about was. He might have been pretty happy around that time. Yeah. But other things that you might have been doing. A film that came out that was a big, big hit. Beauty and the Beast. You know, I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's good. I mean, for Disney animation, with all of its faults, it's still good.
Bestiality, and Disney got away with it.
Only Disney.
Yes. That night, a Golden Girls episode was on, actually titled Beauty and the Beast.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
That night, Color Me Bad was Saturday Night Live's musical guest. Probably, I didn't check to see if they performed this song, but they probably did I Adore Mia Moore. And I bring that up because the day before, it was still number 1. But not this day.
Not this day.
Not this day. People were listening, and probably yourself, because if you like New Kids, then you probably loved Donnie's little brother, Mark Wahlberg, better known then as Marky Mark.
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
I do have to say, thankfully, nowadays, rappers they've come up with far more interesting nicknames. Usually, Marky Mark might be the laziest.
Did you read the nicknames of some of the Funky Bunch? I think my favorite was Hector the Ass Inspector.
Booty Inspector.
Yeah. Classy.
Oh, yeah. Especially now that he's in his 50s, I'm sure. It's like, I'd like to make a reservation. What's it under? Hector. Hector what? The Booty Inspector. Just some things just don't age particularly well. Mark Wahlberg did.
Mark Wahlberg did.
Well,
like sour grapes.
Like sour
turned
grapes.
Into wine.
Oh, okay. I was actually thinking of actual grapes here. I forget about the whole fermentation thing. I don't really think about where my alcohol comes from. Perhaps I should.
Yeah. Started out a little rancid.
Yes, he did. Let's just be blunt. Basically, in his early teen years, this guy's a piece of shit.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but there's no better way to sort of describe that. Trouble with the law, but yeah, you've got something you want to go. Yeah.
Have you watched the TV show Shameless?
Yes, I have.
So I was really thinking about that when I was reading about his teen years, about just like Boston, it seems, is like a pretty tough city. Mm-hmm. And I think the 80s were no exception to that. So I can kind of, you hear about kids falling into gangs and things. So, and he's the youngest of 9 siblings?
I think 9, yeah.
So I'm not excusing his behavior, but I can somewhat understand that you could fall in with a bad crowd in order to be accepted and have some protection.
No, absolutely. And some of the things that he did do were hate crime related, which he did try to get expunged, which is how I sort of learned about it in 2014. But sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just be blunt and talk about what he actually did.
Okay. So in one case, him and his crew were pelting black teens, calling them the N-word.
They were 15 at the time and chasing them. Yeah, it was like in 2 days, 2 separate incidents, but the same thing. Or maybe twice in the same day, but different groups of kids, but still.
Yeah. Later did that, and I think it was a beach. More verbal harassment, but again, him and a group of white people.
And words, things like that.
Right. And what got him in serious trouble was with a Vietnamese, actually a veteran, American veteran. And
again, two different instances. He was high on PCP.
Yes.
Apparently tried to steal a bottle of booze or something and hit one guy over the head with a stick and knocked him unconscious, ran off, and then punched the other guy in the eye? Is that what it was?
Yeah, so he did that, but also while using ethnic slurs.
Yes, exactly. And came back to the scene of the crime with the cops, who he then said, yes, that was the ethnic slur that I cracked their head open. So, not a nice guy. It was thought that he blinded the second guy, but it turns out that he actually lost his eye in Vietnam. So, but still pretty, not great shit.
No. So basically, when he looked like a bad boy, you figured, well, come on, he's Donnie's brother. He couldn't be. But he was.
Yeah, so he was convicted of, he pled guilty. He was charged with attempted murder. He pled guilty to, what was it?
I believe second-degree assault.
And because he had the prior charge from years before for the racial incident with the black kids, the judge kind of threw the book at him and sentenced him to 2 years in jail. I think they said they held him in contempt of court because he wasn't supposed to be, because it was, again, a racial incident.
I thought he only got 45 days.
He only served 45 days.
Oh, okay.
But he was sentenced to 2 years.
Okay.
So this 17-year-old kid spends 45 days in jail. Can't imagine that was easy. And then he seems to genuinely, based on the interviews and stuff I read, he seems to kind of repent and realize that he needed to do something with his life and get out of the gangs and the being a shitty person.
Yeah, it's like he got a lot of those poor decision-making out of his system, and they were really bad decisions. In terms of some of the victims of him, the Vietnamese gentleman forgave him. One of the people at the beach said, once a racist, always a racist. I don't believe that's actually true. I think you can overcome these prejudice.
And I think your opinion,
sure,
especially when you're young. Because when you're young, you're very susceptible to other people's opinions.
Absolutely.
And then I do believe you can learn better. And I think also the second youngest child in this family of 9 kids was Johnny Wahlberg, of the very popular and rising at the time New Kids on the Block. And I think did Mark Wahlberg join New Kids on the Block for a short period of time? Or did Donnie just help him out and get him set up?
That's the one thing I couldn't figure out, because I was trying to determine just how he got his start, but I'm guessing it's just as simple as, hey, here's my kid brother, he's interested in this stuff.
And that's sort of what I got the impression. I read a couple different accounts. One said that Mark joined New Kids on the Block for a short period of time, but then branched out on his own, because he can't really sing.
No. And
when you're in a harmonized boy band, you need to be able to sing. You can't just look the part. So I think that's where...
Whoa, Andrea. New Kids, I remember all this stuff as a kid, because that was every girl in my high school, we were in love with them. So I'm very familiar with this group. There was one guy who didn't do anything, the Step 1 guy.
Step 1.
We could have lots of fun.
Step 2. There's so much we can do.
Step 3. You might as well finish it.
It's just you and me.
Step 4.
I can't remember what key he's singing in, but if I can give you more. Anyway.
Gotta finish it. Step 5.
Don't you know that the time has arrived?
So the step 1 guy couldn't do shit.
Anyway.
I just wanted to point that out.
Whether Mark was with New Kids on the Block or not doesn't really matter. Donnie Wahlberg helped him out, got him set up, got him connected with the right people. And you've got a ripped pretty boy who's got a bad boy attitude and a penchant for taking his short shirt off on stage.
I have to admit, Andrea, if I had those abs, and I'm close, I would too.
Yeah, I think so. You would. So this is just a recipe for pop success in the early 90s. Like,
yes. I think there's also a few other things, too, that sort of worked in his favor. And this is almost where, like, every decision that he made from this period on, I'll put it this way, I'll trust Mark Wahlberg over a GPS. He's the guy in Airplane. Yeah, I mean, he's the guy who, like, if he was in the movie Airplane, wouldn't have eaten the fish. He just would have instinctively known not to have it. Everything he does, or I should say, no, Mark Wahlberg is very self-aware of what he can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you looked at what he did, also the timing-wise, we were only 2 years, maybe less, removed from Vanilla Ice, who was the first successful white rapper. Eventually, we'll touch that. We'll touch that, or maybe not. But everything turned on him very, very quickly because he dressed like a cartoon and he came off fake. And he was fake. He had a fake backstory. So in just that short period of time, Mark Wahlberg, when you look back at the way he was dressed then, okay, yes, it's very early 90s, but it's not something that you're going to go out in Halloween and say, okay, yeah, I'm Marky Mark from 1991. There's not a costume for that. Well,
no. I did read a few things that compared him to Vanilla Ice in a few ways. It's the pop rap, which wasn't really a thing. Like I can't think of others. You've got Milli Vanilli doing it a little bit.
MC Hammer was very pop rap.
MC Hammer, yeah, that's true. So it's that sound. But yeah, I think that the Vanilla Ice comparison is a good one.
Yeah, so I mean, he basically also learned from those mistakes.
Yep.
And again, when you're going to be the first, it's going to be sort of a hard thing. That whoever was going to be the first white rapper was probably going to get dumped on eventually. Vanilla sort of expedited that, but
even Eminem, who is arguably one of the great rappers, gets dumped on for being white. And
true.
I'm not arguing how good or not good he is because there's a huge spectrum and that is not my field of expertise. Mm-hmm. But he gets dumped on because he's white, even now with his huge amounts of success.
That's true.
So there's some stigma around that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of the appropriation factor. Eminem did sort of come up through that earnestly, unlike maybe an Iggy Azalea. But when
come on,
well, please,
she's so fancy.
Well done, nice.
We may have to hit on that one at some point.
Yeah, at some point. I can't wait for that. Can't stand her. But oh well. So his timing was right. He had the right people behind him. He met one of the producers, or I know Donnie produced that also, but he co-wrote the rap with a guy named MC Spice. Couldn't find that much out about him, other than he was a guy who sort of came up through the Boston scene as sort of like a battle rapper. And he was he's content to sort of be a behind-the-scenes guy anyway. But then with this song, when we get, again, you talked about the whole pop rap thing, it is one of the catchiest songs and the most fun songs of that era.
Oh, absolutely. I'm still listening to it this week with, like, dancing around in my chair. Mm-hmm. Like, it's catchy and it's fun.
Absolutely. It's
And what makes it catchy and fun?
Well, two things. Not necessarily Marky Mark, but the piano riff and Lolita Holloway.
Absolutely.
And going back to the whole timing. So Lolita Holloway, she was not super successful in the late 70s, but successful enough. She had like a number one song on the dance charts in 1980. And I knew that she was sampled, but I didn't realize to what degree until this week. So remember when we covered Milli Vanilli and it sort of carried over to that conversation of people who were plagiarized for their work and not given credit, like Martha Wash?
Yes.
Okay. So the same thing happened to her, and actually on the same band. So Black Box, that Italian house group, hired was a French model to do all the singing, and on their biggest hit, Everybody, that was actually Martha Wash singing, and then she never got credit for it. And that happened like a year and a half before this. But then the first single they released was "Ride on Time," and they just sampled all sorts of work from her number one hit, which was "Love Sensation," her number one dance hit in 1980. Not only did they not credit her? Nice English. English speak me good. Nice. First language, yes. Yeah. So not only did they not credit her, she didn't even know about it.
Oh.
They just chopped up her song. And she never actually said "right on time." She said "right on time," but they changed it. So when this woman was lip syncing, there was like clear editing, like she's singing it just like that when she's lip syncing. It is the funniest thing ever, especially when you know what it is. So
I'm gonna have to go watch that.
Oh, yeah.
Marky Mark, on the other hand, gave her full credit and the share of the royalties.
And took her on stage to perform.
Yes.
So I don't know how much of that's Mark or the whole people behind it.
Well, it was shortly after the whole thing with Milli Vanilli and Martha Wash. So I think that it was probably somewhat preemptive in terms of, like, cover your ass.
Could be.
And it's the right thing to do.
It could be.
I mean, I think they just knew that they couldn't get away with it. I mean, it's so distinctive, and it really is the hook of the song.
Yeah, and the hook of the song comes from that same song.
Yeah.
So, like, that one song has generated so much stuff. And the funny other thing, too, or another funny thing from that original thing from Lolita was produced by Dan Hartman. And I was thinking, like, because when I first was looking at all this, like, how does Dan Hartman have writing credits on this? Because I remembered him as for like a soft pop single from the early 80s called "I Can Dream About You." Then to learn more about this guy, he was with the Edgar Winter Group, produced this, also produced some stuff with Wendy O. Williams and the Plasmatics, this disgusting punk band from the early 80s. I say disgusting because that's probably exactly how they would want to be described. So just
as most punk bands would.
Yes. So they've got this perfect combination. Marky Mark's doing it right. One of the performances I did watch, look, you probably saw the same ones I did, so the one on MTV, but the other one on Arsenio Hall. And back then, because Arsenio was so anti-lip syncing of all that stuff, he was pretty much the one who kind of got people looking at Milli Vanilli sideways, because needless to say, he knew, but he wasn't going to out them. But he'd say just enough to make you wonder. So Marky Mark's performing on Arsenio. Like, is he good? No. Is he a rapper? No. But he's good enough. Was he a great?
He's got the look, and he's got the dance moves, and he's got the charisma.
Yeah, but he didn't have the. He's not the best dancer, but they worked around what he could do, which is perfect. I mean, you don't want to see what he can't do. You want to see what he can do. And that is the perfect microcosm for everything that he did in his career. Mark Wahlberg is not going to try to like mix up chops with Viola Davis. He's going to have Viola Davis sort of like dumb herself down to something that he can shine in.
Yep. Yeah, he plays characters that he knows, like nowadays, or even his acting career. He plays generally the slightly dumb, buff, good guy. And I didn't realize he was only 5'8". He pretty much always has whatever lead female is always shorter than him.
I didn't know that. I missed that completely. He's only 5'8". He's
only 5'8". I thought he was I didn't think he was tall. I thought he was sub 6 foot, but I figured 5'10", 5'11" at least.
He's the same height as me? Wait a minute. We're the same height. We have a similar body. Don't say anything.
Sure you do, of course.
Yeah.
You could beat him if you'd maybe just work on your pecs a bit. I don't know. I mean, have you ever been courted by Kevin Kline for an underwear gig?
No, but I have made the joke before when I bought them. I said, I think I need to sue if they've superimposed this model's head on my body. I've actually done that.
Yeah, he plays to his strengths, and I think okay.
Which is that whole video playing to his strengths. He didn't dance much in the video. They shot it in black and white. He had the good dancers behind him. The one thing, though, I couldn't understand, and maybe all the people who work out religiously can explain this shit to me. Why would you do barbells and then put cinder blocks on them? And then just then toss it aside? Now, who's going to clean that up? Why don't you just use your regular barbells? They were there, or the plates. They were there. I saw you bench press. What the hell? Stupid. But anyway.
That I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Do you know who taught him how to box for that? It was a guy named Mickey Ward. Irish Mickey Ward, who was a former champion. And then Wahlberg later played him in a movie.
Yep. The fighter? The boxer? The fighter.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yep.
I thought that was kind of cool. So he's made some shitty decisions, turned his life around, been very lucky that his slightly older brother was able to help him out and position him to make better decisions. And then I think you're right, he just knew exactly where he was going and knew how to take those steps. He genuinely seems like he stays out of the limelight these days. If he's either working on movies or, working.
Or producing.
Or being a devout Catholic and staying home with his family. And so he applied to be pardoned in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was really genuine because he just kind of let it die when there was some backlash towards it. So I think maybe he did genuinely want to be pardoned, but I think he also then realized that he shouldn't be excused for what he did. But it
could have been that a lot of people, maybe like myself, just learned about it.
Oh, a lot of people did when he was applying for the pardon. If he were a teenager now, or if he were just coming up as Marky Mark now, in different style of music, obviously, maybe mumble rap's not even a thing anymore. Whatever, the current thing. If it were him now, he wouldn't have made it because everything would have been all over social media, and he would have been canceled before he even started.
Right.
So it's an interesting discussion about our current cancel culture and how long do we live with our sins and what is repenting and what is, to me, if we have a legal system that punishes people when you've done your time, you should be forgiven and allowed to prove yourself. I'm not saying you should be immediately forgiven, but you should be at least allowed to turn your life around. But I'm not saying you should be pardoned necessarily for it.
Well, you can be forgiven but not forgotten. I do think, and not that I want to necessarily excuse what he said, but a lot of the time when you're younger, you don't quite understand what those words really mean. And 15, 17, you do, but you don't. If you're not in, I don't know, let's say, like if you're pretty much in your own peer group and they're all sort of monochromatic, looking the same as you, you're not putting a lot of that stuff together. You just know that this is a word that's going to agitate the other person without thinking about the whole history of it.
Absolutely.
And does Mark Wahlberg, growing up in a pretty much tough Irish community, would he know better at age 15? Probably not.
Yeah, and I really do genuinely believe that he has repented and atoned for his sins. Well, and I don't feel that they should be held against him now because he genuinely seems to be a good person. Mm-hmm. Although, did you also see he posted about George Floyd and got a whole lot of backlash?
Yeah.
And, I get it, but also, why not allow a person to show that they can change? Like, to me, if you're going to protest racism, you should be able to accept that your protests will make a difference and you can change people's minds. Because if you can't change anyone's mind, then what's the point?
No, I agree with you. I agree, but everyone's so tough behind a keyboard.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found it really interesting because I did know that he had a shady past and had done some shitty things. I hadn't really looked into it, but you gotta admire him for turning his life around and making better decisions. I also didn't know that Donnie Wahlberg was arrested for arson and was facing 20 years in jail.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's another thing.
Poured vodka in a hotel hallway and lit it on fire. And then he got the charges reduced to vandalism or something, and then he got the whole thing not thrown out, but basically turned around by appearing in some anti-drug and alcohol commercials or something.
Which is perfect because now he married an anti-vaxxer.
Did he?
Yeah, Jenny McCarthy.
Who's he married to? Oh yeah, Jenny McCarthy. I forgot about that.
Yes, because when I want to learn about vaccinations, I go to the host of Singled Out. Mm-hmm. Just like when I really want my
Playboy centerfold at one point.
I think so.
You're gonna have to go check your collection now.
I know. I will tell you. I will tell you this, and it's music related, so this will work. So when I was 12, 13, I thought Madonna was all that. So then the leaked pictures came out of her. Like she took some pictures, and then Penthouse got them, or was it Hustler or something? Yeah, my uncle bought me a copy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She. I suppose the modern woman right now would say "F your beauty standards," those hairy armpits just didn't do it for me.
Well then.
I should have saved that for when we covered Madonna.
Because eventually we will.
Eventually we will. Yes, definitely. So from this, I listened to some of his other music. Fine, whatever. This song is still awesome. I still love it. Putting a little bow on this, when I asked my wife about it, what do you remember of the song? It was fun. I like it. It's simple to the point. That's all you need.
Yep, exactly. It'll still be on your top 90 hits playlist forevermore.
Yep. I do wish he'd sort of like just come back and just perform it one more time. Lolita's not alive anymore, sadly, but I don't know why he wants...
use a sample of the song.
They could.
Or there's some other powerhouse female vocalists that could cover it.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is, and maybe you could sort of like help launch that person's career. Or shine a light on perhaps another woman who has not gotten the due she deserves.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's... If he's choosing not to, I will just trust him because, again, Mark Wahlberg, adult Mark Wahlberg, makes good decisions.
You were going to make a comparison with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, I was, yeah. Thank you. I forgot about that. When I was looking up everything, Mark Wahlberg he's the male Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore was a train wreck as a teenager. Like a complete train wreck. What was she? Hooked in her rehab at 13, so doing drugs before she was even 10. Putting out bad film after bad film. Went on Letterman, flashed her boobs. If we were to do a Deadpool, she would have been a first-round pick, especially if we do a weighted pool. Like you take 100 and minus their age, so that would have been like an 81, 82 value. I mean, you could win just on her alone. And then turns everything around in the mid-20s so that, again, I'll just sort of use my wife when talking about her. She's like, because she loves Drew Barrymore films. She loves everything. They're a lot of fun to her. A lot of the chick flicks, rom-coms. And she's just made all these great decisions since. Become a major force in Hollywood. But if you just learned of her career from like 2000 on, you'd never know.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because a lot of people don't know that. When I looked at the Marky Mark comments on YouTube, there was people who said like, holy shit, I didn't even know he was a rapper.
Yeah, when I refer to him as Marky Mark and not Mark Wahlberg, there's some young people that are like, what are you talking about? And he's Marky Mark.
Yeah, they would have no idea. And that's...
and I think...
It's awesome.
I think the Drew Barrymore thing is a little different because she was very much a child of fame. Child star to famous parents. So there was different stresses and craziness on her.
But I'm just talking about turning everything around to become, she's a 45, major star, has been for the last 20 years.
Yep. Very successful, living outside of the limelight these days, just doing her thing. Producing, still acting. Santa Clarita Diet is excellent.
No, but I'm bummed there's no season 4. I kind of like that quirky show.
Yeah. Good take on cannibalism and zombies. But anyway.
All right, so what do we have next week?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Kirk. I'm thinking that we go back to 1985.
Okay.
Little change of pace.
All right.
To some Dire Straits. Money for Nothing.
Yeah. A song you can't play on the radio anymore.
No.
And we'll explain that then.
I figured there's some good controversy, some fun song, aside from a few controversial lyrics. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. See, I never liked this song, but I'll tell you why for next week.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's all right. Okay, yeah. I thought when you said 1985, I thought, God, is it going to be We Are the World?
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
We are the children.
That one, if we ever did that one, that would have to be a 24-hour thing because I can't even dissect that whole thing.
No, we won't do that.
Yeah.
I promise I will not pick that song unless for some reason this podcast goes for like 30 years and we've run out of songs.
Oh, dear God. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, stay safe and Happy New Year to everyone listening.
Happy New Year!
All right. Thanks, Andrea. Thank you all so much for listening. Look for a lot more content from us regularly at notinhalloffame.com, and we wish everyone a Happy New Year.